So you've built $1 million business, but it still feels like you're faking it. And no strategy or mindset shift has changed that yet for you. This video shows you the brain-based reason why and what it's quietly costing you in power, presence, and energy. Because if you don't fix this, your next level stays locked, no matter how hard you push. But what is actually causing that performance feeling, no matter how successful you are? Imagine your brain is like a supercomputer, and there are 4 parts of your brain that play a crucial role when success feels like a performance. Once you see these 4 systems interact, you will immediately understand why success still feels fake. So the first part of your computer is your operating system. So really simple, this sets the rules behind the scenes. Then the next thing is the firewall. This is your security system. The third part is the internal wiring. This delivers signals across the system. This makes sure that every part of your computer can communicate with each other. And then the last part is the user interface, of course. This is where you act. This is the window of your computer. This is where you click. This is where you write. This is where you control the machine in that sense. So now you're probably wondering, how do these 4 systems work together to create that performance feeling? So imagine you step into a high pressure moment. Maybe it's a big meeting, a big launch, or a public talk. Anything that makes you feel visible. What happens next here in this analogy is that your operating system detects an overload. It flags this pressure right here as a threat because you're outside the system's comfort zone, which in turn makes your security system respond. Remember that firewall here? It triggers an alarm. And then the internal wiring in your computer sends those alarm signals through the entire system, which makes the user interface glitch. The user interface, remember, you want to act, but when it glitches, when it's laggy, when it overcompensates, it tries to run normally, but it's struggling, which means your voice or your presence wobbles. Maybe you start sweating, your heart rate increases, your body tenses up. Most high performers have no idea that this is actually happening. But what if I told you that this is not just a metaphor? Because these 4 parts, they actually exist inside of you. They're not just ideas, but they're physical parts of your body and your brain. And this is why no matter how smart or prepared you are, you sometimes feel like you're stuck or not yourself or performing when it matters most. Now let me show you exactly which parts of your body and brain correspond to each of these computer components, and why understanding this is the game changer that unlocks effortless performance. So remember that I said your operating system is the system that sets all the rules behind the scenes. That is your default mode network. And I know that sounds complicated, but it's really easy to understand because, like your operating system, this is a part in your brain that stores all your internal rules about who you are and what you're capable of 24/7. And it is a network of brain regions that is active when you're not focused on tasks, when you're daydreaming, when you're thinking about yourself and doing self-inspection. And this is the most important part. It maintains your sense of who you are and runs your automatic beliefs about yourself on repeat. So what happens here is that this default mode network is something that always runs in the background. You don't notice it. It's just there playing like music in a store. Yeah, there's some background music playing all the time. But wait, what happens when your operating system detects a potential threat? There's an ancient alarm system taking over. Then we have the security system, the firewall, and that's actually your limbic system in your brain. It decides what's dangerous and it triggers your alarm system in milliseconds. And the limbic system is ancient. It's really an ancient alarm system. It has been keeping humans alive for millions of years, and it scans for threats faster than you can think, faster than you can perceive with your physical mind, with your logical mind. And it triggers your flight or fight reaction or response in milliseconds. So this is again like the default mode network. This is not something you consciously control. So your limbic system, this is like the animal part in our brain. So let's say you're walking around in the dark and there's a shadow that you see in the corner of your eye, and maybe it's a bit of a sketchy neighborhood, and the moment you perceive that shadow, your limbic system goes in alarm. Your heart rate increases, maybe you feel fear rising up in you. And even if that shadow was just some leaves of a tree, your limbic system alerts your whole body saying, hey, wait, there is a threat. And adrenaline gets flooded into your body. Maybe you start to sweat and your heart rate will definitely increase. But there's one more system that amplifies everything we have talked about. And this one lives in your body. Now, the third part was the wiring, remember it? And that represented the computer network. What it actually corresponds to in your body is your nervous system, because like your nervous system, it carries signals between your body and your brain instantly. So this is your communication highway, so to speak, inside your body, between your brain and your body. And it carries these signals, like I said, instantly, which is why, by the way, you can feel stress in your stomach, or you can feel excitement in your chest. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because the logical part of your brain, the part of you that knows you have made it, why can't it just take control? So remember, you also have the user interface, the window where you can click or write or just act. And this is like a control center in your computer, and in your body, it is your prefrontal cortex. This is the part in your brain that sets goals and knows you have earned your success. This is your physical mind. This is the part of you that thinks logically. This is the part of you that goes like, I know I deserve my success. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, but why can't I shake this feeling of performance? This is your prefrontal cortex. And this is the newest part of your brain, by the way. It's not like the limbic system that is ancient, and this is what makes you human. It handles logic, planning, decision making. It can rationally list all of your wins, but it can't rewrite your identity patterns that are stored in your operating system, the rules that you have set for yourself in your operating system. So now that you know where exactly this lives in your brain, let me show you the real sequence, because that will explain everything. So we start with the same trigger here. You step into a high pressure moment. And now that we see at the brain parts, you can see here that instead of your operating system from the computer analogy, it's the default mode network. And when that trigger here happens, when you step into these high pressure, high stakes moments, your default mode network activates and it detects a mismatch. It says something like, this environment is operating at a different scale than our baseline settings. And then your security system, your limbic system responds, and it interprets this as a threat signal. And then your nervous system amplifies. It sends all of these stress signals throughout your body, which makes you feel like you're performing success. It makes you sweat. It makes you lose your power. It makes you lose your presence. You feel your body is tensioning up. And this is because your prefrontal cortex tries to compensate this threat. So now you really see here what's going on in your brain and what is really responsible for this performance feeling. It's not your logical part of the brain, it's your default mode network. And inside this network, there are rules set up for you. Who you are, what's possible for you, what you're capable of. These are all identity stories that are not logical and you don't feel them consciously, but this is the rule book for you, so to speak. This creates the stress or performance response. So, what do all of these things here have in common? I'm sure this list feels familiar to you. Maybe everything is something you have already tried before. Maybe some things are familiar to you. Maybe you've tried affirmations. Maybe you read lots of books or listened to motivating podcasts. Maybe you tried plant medicine journeys, mindset work, coaching, therapy, somatic work, trying to feel ready before acting, all of these things, and you still feel like your success feels like a performance. Now, what do these things have in common is that all of them work with the prefrontal cortex. And you now know that the prefrontal cortex is not the part of your brain that is in control. It's not the part of the brain that creates these performance feelings. So all of these tools here, I'm sure they have been helpful, but they didn't solve this performance feeling. They didn't get rid of it completely. And this is why they don't work with the brain part that is actually in command, that actually creates this performance feeling. Now, here's what's absolutely fascinating. I've worked with hundreds of high achievers personally, and the same outdated programs keep showing up. Let me show you the most common identity stories I see that are running in the default mode network. So I've prepared six examples for you here, and I will show you them in a second, but keep in mind, these are just examples. So remember, these things are not logical. They're not stored in your prefrontal cortex, they're stored in your default mode network. Good. Number one, this next level demands more from me than I've built yet. And that sounds completely reasonable, doesn't it? But it's still something that caps your success. Next one, number two, if I over prepare, I feel in control. I've done it once, but can I really sustain it? And number four, no matter what I achieve, it still feels like I'm one misstep away from losing it. And I know some people here say, well, Nadine, these thoughts keep me sharp. They keep me on my toes, But these are all identity stories that are sabotaging you because growth shouldn't hurt. Okay, so let's see what number 5 is. People like me don't naturally belong in these rooms. So you see, we get a little deeper here. This is becoming something about who you are. And then number 6, there's a part of me that still thinks I got here by accident. And like I said, they don't have to completely resonate with you, because if you have one of those or if you have multiple of those, you won't sit here now and think like, oh yeah, of course, because you watch this video with your logical mind and you know now these things are not stored in there. So just feel into your body. That is my tip for you here. Feel into your body and notice a reaction. Maybe your body tenses up, maybe you feel a tight feeling in your stomach, or maybe you feel a little bit of relief even because you now read something that explains years of these performance feelings, years of asking yourself, why has nothing worked for me before? Okay? So don't reject it just because it doesn't sound logical. Don't reject it just because it doesn't create a aha effect for you yet. Now, this here is really, really important. The specific words of these identity stories don't matter. What matters is that your default mode network runs outdated programs that see your current level of success as dangerous territory. Now, if you're starting to think, oh, so this is what has been running the show for me all of that time, then I made a deeper video for you. If you're ready to see how deep these identity patterns really go and how fast they can collapse, then watch this video here called Why Your 7-Figure Business Still Feels Fake Even If You're Winning.